This is being recorded for your future pleasure. Is that, are people listening to the recordings at all? You don't have to. Yeah. Madeline is. Okay, that's fine. I'll keep posting them. It's just a matter of going to YouTube and putting it on YouTube because they're too big. There's Marcos and his iPhone. All right. I'm a little concerned about people not getting papers in. You got to get them in on time. I can't. I have lots of papers this term every week. So please get them in on time so I can do them, grade them. I hope you've been working on your final paper. If you haven't found time yet, find time now. Seriously, don't wait till the last second on this one. All right. Remember, it's a research paper, so whatever you're doing it not stuff that you're surmising or analyzing until the end of the paper, but you're putting up some sort of argument or information that you want us to know, and then you're supporting that with evidence. And humanities evidence is almost always based on the quality of the research is based on the truth of what the people are saying. So be careful of your references. I would really recommend to not go outside of the Hannon Library's extensive articles and books. They have articles from all over the country, so you can use those. Any questions about that? Is anybody having problems with that? You should probably have most of your research done, if not all of it. And you should be working on an outline where you're going to put the research in your paper. And then after that, you're going to write a draft without even worrying about how it's said, just to get all the ideas on paper in the right order, and then go ahead and polish that up. If you need me to look at that rough draft for that, to see if your organization makes sense, just email it to me and I'll take a look at it. Okay, I won't grade it like piece by piece, but I'll give you kind of a summary, some summary feedback. Okay, so what did you guys think of the homecoming?
Strange.
Yes. Did it make sense to you?
Personally, no. I mean, it probably needs a couple more rereads, but for me, this one was the hardest to get a grip on, just sort of what it was implying.
Mm-hmm. What did you think it was implying, Aiden?
I don't know. I noticed more themes than I did like underlying messages. I saw a lot about sexuality and I don't know, intimacy. Uh it all just seemed very strange. Again, I think it needs a few more rereads.
Um, how would you to anybody now, how would you talk about the character relationships in this? How would you like summarize the kinds of interaction and relationships between the characters? I said,
Oh, oh,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Isaac. Um, Sort of incongruous, at least, especially in the way that they talk to each other. Um, there's a like big like sort of communication gap in like most of the dialogue, at least from what I remember. I was a little tired when I read it. But it's just a lot of things of like the characters not listening to each other or not like registering or acknowledging what the other characters are saying, or just even registering the other characters' existence at all.
Okay. Isaac.
Yeah, and full agreement with what Valentine just said. Also, like this overwhelming desire to like dominate each other at any given moment with any given line.
There you
Um,
go.
and in a way, as Valentine was describing how no one's like really listening to each other, they're just waiting for like their turn to talk and try to like inflict their will upon someone else. That has like a weird realism to it that makes me a little uncomfortable. When I was reading this play, um, when I was trying to visualize it in my mind, right, I found myself having a lot of like really close, intimate shots, as if like it was like a film instead of like a play. Um, and a lot of the dialogue is like this very close, personal, like vindictive, I think is too strong of a word, but there's lots of intimacy that's like hostile and threatening in this show. And I saw that via like a very close up film lens instead of like a external play um visual.
So that's for me, that's a very accurate description. It's a play about language as human competition. And there are all each of the other characters is the enemy. And yet you're very polite to all of them. And that was kind of Pinter's thing, was that language is the way we communicate, the way we are able to communicate is more understood when you react to the manner in which you speak rather than the words you say. The words you say might be very innocent, but you're still engaged in a battle that pits people against each other. And then, like all theater, he just exaggerates that. So this is the third full-length play that he wrote. He was, and this was considered his early period, where he was more blatant about this. Other plays carry the same kinds of techniques, but they aren't as blatant as they aren't as ambiguous into what people are talking about. In other words, in future, he addresses the things we don't know in his early plays. We don't know what Teddy and Ruth's relationship is. We don't know what the hell Lenny's thinking at any given time. He seems like a gangster, but at times he doesn't. So all the things, Aiden, that you were thinking might be happening, those were the things that were happening. And it needs to be expressed physically on stage. Again, Pinter's most of the absurdists are not as good a read as they are to see. And hopefully most plays are like that too. It's not just literature, it's a guide for creating an artistic project. So I want to support all of the feelings that you had when you read it. And now, knowing that you're accurate with them, and yes, Ruth agrees fairly readily to become a prostitute for the family a couple of hours a night, and also to service them. And apparently, Max's ex-wife or dead wife, Jessie, did the same thing for them. So all of those undercurrents are there, revealing this really weird pseudo society that these guys have that we can't even understand. We don't even want to acknowledge it's so awful. Why would Ruth accept this at the end? Was that indicative, Isaac?
I have a theory.
Okay, I just want to say first, it was written in 1963. I don't know what that means. Oh, your residence is there. Got it. It was objectionable back in 1963, this play. Unless you're viewing it as Pinter wanted it to be viewed as kind of revealing how language actually works in relationships, and also in, you can see it today, and you've been able to see it for years and years, that people assume, if you're writing something online, people assume your entire background and experience, and don't even have a sense of uncertainty when they do that. Well, because you said that, you are and that's kind of what he's getting at, is that there's this competition between people. It's almost like internet speak and internet relationships, because when you don't know about people, you make assumptions. Max does this all the time. He takes one thing someone says and blows it up into this is who they are. So let's go ahead, Val.
My theory was, I mean, most of the interactions of this play are people just vying for like limited social power in the like small hierarchy that they exist in, and it's constantly confrontational and trying to put themselves above the others. And by accepting the role as like a sex worker, she has allowed herself to be desired by everyone, which gives her her own form of power in the system.
Right. That's excellent. And as individuals, it's really objectionable. But if you look at this overlaid society as a whole, it becomes a little bit more clear what he's talking about. Ruth could be a young intern at a large corporation who will do anything to get ahead within the structure of that company, and that becomes their whole world, and therefore the whole world could be anything within that company. Just as a kind of a rough graph, a rough approach to it. If you look at it as a social phenomenon rather than individuals, it becomes a little bit easier to take, because most people who go to work for a company will at some time act against their morality, depending on the situation. So, it's not, and sometimes it's just little things, sometimes it's huge things. I remember when I was teaching in high school, a parent accused me of passing pornographic literature to their students, and it's a long, drawn out story. I had a scene book, and they chose a scene, but it was toward the end of another scene, so a page from that other scene got on, and yeah, it was pretty bad. I didn't even check to see what it was. And so he brought me up on charges and said he would drop them if I raised the student's grade. And the principal came and talked to me about it, and was kind of on the side of changing that grade. And God damn it, I did it. Worst mistake I ever made in my life, just in terms of my personal view of myself. And they kept up with the charges. And really all that happened was I went to talk to the police, the guy who was on campus, the community, I don't know what they call police on campus anymore, but he was a fairly nice guy. And I talked to a lawyer first, and he said, no, don't do that without me present. He lived up in a city way up. So I said, I think this is more simple than it seems. And I'll just explain to him what happened, because there was no intent there. And I did. And he said, I'm not gonna press charges for this at all. Because I admitted that I had made a mistake not checking this book. And so it was to me, it kind of felt like that. It was a competition with this parent and I, and the parent wouldn't even talk to me. That was, when I called the parent prior to that to talk about their son's non-participation in class and his attendance. He just refused to talk to me. He said he didn't talk to teachers. He only talks to the boss. So he'll talk to the principal or the superintendent, and that's it. And then, so that happened a long, long time ago, and it taught me a good lesson. Probably not good enough, but it taught me the lesson. And it was simply a matter of people making judgments, in this case about me, without knowing me. And luckily the principal did get to know me pretty well before, and was supportive, but not involved, kind of. She didn't come to my defense. What happened was that my students had their parents go to the next school board meeting and complain. And a couple of them like wrote letters to people. I don't think those letters did any good because they were all about censorship. Anyway, it's that kind of verbal violence that they're talking about. And I think your generation may, correct me if I'm wrong, may be a lot more able to cope with that. Maybe a lot more able to say, well, I think you really mean this, and that's insulting. If someone says something, even inadvertently, that is insulting. Any reaction to that? It's hard to talk about even. Let's take a look at this is a longer scene. This is when Teddy and Ruth first come to the house. So it's the first, there's a scene before that, but this is really the first time we see their interactions. So, I got to share screen. And then if I share screen, make it big. All right, this is a fairly long one, because I'm going to go all the way through when Lenny comes down. And there. Teddy's upstairs, checking to see if there's anybody sleeping in his room now.
Bed's there. What are you doing? Blankets, no sheets. I'll find some sheets. I could hear snores, really. They're all still here, I think. They're all snoring up there. Are you cold?
No.
I'll make something to drink if you like, something.
No, I don't want anything.
What do you think of the room? Big, isn't it? It's a big house. I mean, it's a fine room, don't you think? Actually, there was a wall across there with a door. We knocked it down years ago to make an open living area. The structure wasn't affected, you see. My mother was dead. Tired?
Just a little.
We can go to bed if you like. No point in waking anyone up now. Just go to bed. See them all in the morning. See my father in the morning.
Do you want to stay?
Stay. We've come to stay. We're bound to stay. For a few days.
I think the children might be missing us.
Don't be silly.
They might.
Look, we'll be back in a few days, won't we? Nothing's changed. Still the same. Still, he'll get a surprise in the morning, won't he? The old man. I think you'll like him very much, honestly. He's well, he's old, of course, getting on. I was born here. Do you realize that?
I know.
Why don't you go to bed? I'll find some sheets. I feel wide awake, isn't it odd? I think I'll stay up for a bit. Are you tired?
No.
Go to bed. I'll show you the room.
No, I don't want to.
You'll be perfectly all right up there without me. Really, you will. I mean, I won't be long. Look, it's just up there. It's the first door on the landing. The bathroom's right next door. You need some rest, you know. I just want to walk about for a few minutes. Do you mind?
course I don't.
Well, shall I show you the room?
No, I'm happy at the moment.
You don't have to go to bed. I mean, you can stay up with me. Perhaps I'll make a cup of tea or something. The only thing is we don't want to make too much noise. We don't want to wake anyone up.
I'm not making any noise.
I know you're not. Look, it's all right, really. I'm here. I mean, I'm with you. There's no need to be nervous. Are you nervous?
No.
There's no need to be. They're very warm people, really. Very warm. They're my family. They're not ogres. Well, perhaps we should go to bed. After all, have to be up early, see Dad. Wouldn't be quite right if he found us in bed, I think. Have to be up before 6. Come down, say hello.
I think I'll have a breath of air.
Air? What do you mean?
Just a stroll.
At this time of night? But we've only just got here. We've got to go to bed.
I just feel like some air.
But I'm going to bed.
That's all right.
But what am I going to do? The last thing I want is a breath of air. Why do you want a breath of air?
I just do.
But it's late.
I won't go far. I'll come back.
I'll wait up for you.
Why?
I'm not going to bed without you.
Can I have the key? Why don't you go to bed? I won't be long.
Hello, Teddy. I didn't hear you come down the stairs.
Well, I didn't. I sleep down here now.
If you look
Next door.
familiar, that's Ian Holm, the Hobbit.
I've got a kind of study, workroom come bedroom next door now.
Did I wake you up?
No? I just had an early night tonight. You know how it is. Can't sleep, keep waking up.
How are you?
Well, just sleeping a bit restlessly, that's all. Tonight, anyway.
Bad dreams?
No, I wouldn't say I was dreaming. It's not exactly a dream. It's just that something keeps waking me up. Some kind of tick.
A tick?
Yes.
Well, what is it?
I don't know.
Have you got a clock in your room?
Yes?
Well, maybe it's the clock.
Yeah. Could be, I suppose. Well, if it's the clock, I better do something about it. Stifle it in some way or something.
I've just come back for a few days.
Oh, yes, have you?
How's the old man?
He's in the pink.
I've been keeping well.
Oh, have you? Staying the night then, are you?
Yes.
Well, you can sleep in your old room.
Yes, I've been up.
Yes, you can sleep there. Oh, well.
I'm going to bed.
Are you?
Yes, I'll get some sleep.
Yes, I'm going to bed too.
Yeah, I'll give you a hand. No, they're not heavy.
Nothing you want?
Hmm?
Nothing you might want for the night? Glass of water, anything like that?
Any sheets anywhere?
In the sideboard in your room.
Oh, good. Well, I'll see you at breakfast then.
Yes, that's it. Ta-da! Good evening.
Morning, I think.
You're right there. My name's Lenny. What's yours?
Ruth.
Cold?
No.
It's been a wonderful summer, hasn't it? Remarkable. Would you like something? A refreshment of some kind, an aperitif, anything like that?
No, thanks.
I'm glad you said that. We haven't got a drink in the house. Mind you, I'd soon get something if we had a party, something like that. Some kind of celebration, you know. You must be connected with my brother in some way, the one that's been abroad.
I'm his wife.
Hey, listen, wonder if you can advise me. I've been having a bit of a rough time with this clock. The tick's been...
Hi, my name is Mike
Sorry
from
about
Michigan,
that.
and this
This
is
is
this
gonna
is the
happen
Life
twice.
Boost coffee, the late roast. We just got it about.
This is the story
Oh.
of a wish
I wish.
that didn't go quite as planned.
Oh, ho there.
Disney.
Last night I made a wish and the star answers.
Careful. The star. With such power, I can do anything. What you wish for.
You have to stop him.
Aha! Meant to do that. I'm coming! Disney's Wish. Rated PG. Only in theaters.
And I hope you're all looking forward to that.
The trouble is, I'm not all that convinced it was the clock. I mean, there are lots of things which tick in the night. Don't you find that? All sorts of objects which in the day you wouldn't call anything else but commonplace. They give you no trouble. But in the night, any given one of a number of them is liable to start letting out a bit of a tick. Whereas you look at these objects in the day and they're just commonplace. They're as quiet as mice during the daytime. So, all things being equal, this question of me saying it was the clock that woke me up, well, that could very easily prove something of a false hypothesis.
He meant to do that.
Yeah, bet you could do with this.
What is it?
Water. Isn't it funny? I've got my pajamas on and you're fully dressed. Might I have one? Yes, it's funny seeing my old brother again after all these years. It's just the sort of tonic my dad needs, you know. He'll be chuffed to his bollocks in the morning when he sees his eldest son. I was surprised myself when I saw Ted, you know. Old Ted. I thought he was in America.
We're on a visit to Europe.
What, both of you?
Yes.
Well, you sort of live with him over there, do you?
We're married.
On a visit to Europe, eh? See much of it?
We've just come from Italy.
Oh, you went to Italy first, did you? Then he brought you over here to meet the family, did he? Well, the old man will be pleased to see you, I can tell you.
Good.
What'd you say?
Good.
Where'd you go to in Italy?
Venice.
Not dear old Venice, eh? That's funny. Do you know, I've always had the feeling that if I'd been a soldier in the last war, say in the Italian campaign, I'd have probably found myself in Venice. I've always had that feeling. The trouble was I was too young to serve, you see. I was only a child. I was too small. Otherwise, I've got a pretty shrewd idea I'd have probably gone through Venice. Yes, I'd almost certainly have gone through it with my battalion. Do you mind if I hold your hand?
Why?
Just a touch. Just a tickle.
Why?
I'll tell you why. One night, not too long ago, one night down by the docks, I was standing alone under an arch, watching all the men jibbing the boom out in the harbour, playing about with a yardarm, when a certain lady came up to me and made me a certain proposal. This lady had been searching for me for days. She'd lost track of my whereabouts. However, the fact was she eventually caught up with me, and when she caught up with me, she made me this certain proposal. Well, this proposal wasn't entirely out of order, and normally I would have subscribed to it. I mean, I would have subscribed to it in the normal course of events. The only trouble was she was falling apart with a pop, so I turned it down. Well, this lady was very insistent and started taking liberties with me down under this arch. Liberties which, by any criterion, I couldn't be expected to tolerate, the facts being what they were, so I clumped her one. It was on my mind at the time to do away with her. You know, to kill her. And the fact is that as killings go, it would have been a simple matter. Nothing to it. Her chauffeur, who'd located me for her, he popped round the corner to have a drink. Which just left this lady and myself, you see, alone, standing underneath this arch, watching all the steamers steaming up. No one about, all quiet on the western front. And there she was, up against this wall. Well, just sliding down the wall, following the blow I'd given her. Well, to sum up, everything was in my favor for a killing. Don't worry about the chauffeur. The chauffeur would never have spoken. He was an old friend of the family. But in the end, I thought, yeah, why go to all the bother? You know, getting rid of the corpse and all that. Getting yourself into a state of tension. So I just gave her another belt in the nose and a couple of turns of the boot and sort of left it at that.
How did you know she was diseased?
How did I know? I decided she was.
You and my brother are newlyweds, are you?
We've been married 9 years.
He's always been my favorite brother, old Teddy. Do you know that? And my goodness, we are proud of him here, I can tell you. Doctor of philosophy and all that. Leaves quite an impression. Of course, he's a very sensitive man, isn't he, Ted? Very. I've often wished I was as sensitive as he is.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not sensitive. I am. I could just be a bit more so, that's all.
Could you?
Yes, just a bit more so, that's all. I mean, I'm very sensitive to atmosphere, but I tend to get desensitized, if you know what I mean, when people make unreasonable demands of me. For instance, last Christmas, I decided to do a bit of snow clearing for the borough council because we had a heavy snow over here that year in Europe. I didn't have to do this snow clearing. I mean, I wasn't financially embarrassed in any way. It just appealed to me. It appealed to something inside me. What I anticipated with a good deal of pleasure was the brisk, cold bite in the air in the early morning. And I was right. I had to get my snow boots on and I had to stand in a corner at about 5:30 in the morning to wait for the lorry to pick me up to take me to the allotted area. Bloody freezing. Well, the lorry came, jumped on the tailboard, headlights on, dipped, and off we went. Got there, shovels up, bags on, and off we went. Deep into the December snow. Hours before cockcrow. Well, that morning, while I was having my mid-morning cup of tea in the neighbouring cafe, the shovel standing by my chair, an old lady approached me and asked me if I'd give her a hand with her iron mangle. Her brother-in-law, she said, had left it for her, but he'd left it in the wrong room. He'd left it in the front room. Well, naturally, she wanted it in the back room. It was a present he'd given me, see, a mangle to iron out the washing, but he'd left it in the wrong room. He'd left it in the front room. Well, that was a silly place to leave. We couldn't stay there. So I took time off to give her a hand. She only lived up the road. Well, the only trouble was that when I got up there, I couldn't move this mangle. It must have weighed about half a ton. How this brother-in-law got it up there in the first place, I can't even begin to envisage. So there I was, doing a bit of shoulders on with a mangle, risking a rupture. And this old lady just standing there, waving me on. Not even lifting a little finger to give me a helping hand. So after a few minutes, I said to her, now look here, why don't you stuff this iron mangle up your arse? Anyway, I said, they're out of...
This is the
Sorry.
story of a wish
I wish.
that didn't go
I
quite as
couldn't find
planned.
any without commercials.
Oh ho there.
Disney.
Last night I made a wish and the star answers.
Careful. Let's talk. With such power, I can do anything. What you wish for.
We have to stop him.
Aha! Meant to do that. I'm coming! This is West. Rated PG. Only in theaters. This is the
Oh,
smoke
no.
mess
I wish.
that didn't go quite as planned.
Oh ho.
This is actually what I want you to see.
Last night I made a wish and the star answers.
Careful. Let's talk. With such power, I can do anything. What you wish for.
We have to stop him.
Aha! Meant to do that. I'm coming! This is West. Rated PG. Only in theaters.
At a date, you want to get a spin dryer. I had a good mind to give her a workover there and then. But as I was feeling jubilant with the snow clearing, I just gave her a short arm jab to the belly and jumped on a bus outside. Excuse me, shall I take this ashtray out of your way?
It's not in my way.
It seems to be in the way of your glass. The glass was about to fall. Or the ashtray. I'm rather worried about the carpet. It's not me, it's my father. He's obsessed with order and clarity. He doesn't like mess. Besides, I don't believe you're smoking at the moment. I'm sure you won't object if I move the ashtray. And now perhaps I'll relieve you of your glass.
I haven't quite finished.
You've consumed quite enough, in my opinion.
No, I haven't.
Quite sufficient, in my own opinion.
Not in mine, Leonard.
Don't call me that, please.
Why not?
That's the name my mother gave me. Just give me the glass.
No.
I'll take it then.
If you take the glass, I'll take you.
How about me taking the glass without you taking me?
Why don't I just take you?
You're joking. You're in love anyway with another man. You've had a secret liaison with another man. His family didn't even know. Then you come here without a word of warning and start to make trouble.
Have a sip. Go on. Have a sip from my glass. Sit on my lap. Take a long, cool sip. Put your head back and open your mouth.
Take that glass away from me.
Lie on the floor. Go on. I'll pour it down your throat.
What are you doing? Making me some kind of proposal?
Oh. I was thirsty.
What was that supposed to be? Some kind of proposal?
Oops, I gotta stop it from making noise. I've lost it.
Are you drunk?
Is that it?
What are you shouting about? You gone mad? Prancing about in the middle of the night, shouting your head off. What
I've
are you,
lost
a fucking lunatic?
I
Oh,
was
there we go.
thinking aloud.
It's Joey down here. You've been shouting at Joey.
Didn't you hear what I said, Dad?
What'd you think? What happened?
I mean, what happened is, oh God, the character names.
That is Lenny.
Teddy,
Lenny
yeah,
and Teddy is the husband, Lenny's his brother, and Ruth is the wife.
yeah, I mean, a quick summary is just Teddy and Ruth showed up. Teddy talks about some stuff. Ruth stepped outside to go on a walk. Teddy went to bed. When Ruth got back, Lenny was there. What's more interesting to me is how much this just absolutely reeks of insecure men. Like, hearing it verbally is much more potent than just reading it, because I think in reading it you sort of give it the benefit of the doubt. But like these actors are really amping up how like pathetic these men are. Specifically, like Lenny more so than Teddy. Teddy is like sort of like showing off, like, oh yeah, this isn't this cool. We used to like knock down this, and Ruth doesn't seem particularly interested. And then Lenny is talking about like, yeah, I could have killed this woman. Oh yeah, I would have been in Venice if I was in the army. And it's just like, oh dear God, how insecure could you possibly get?
What was the subtext going on? Go ahead, Tatum.
Specifically for the part about him saying hold my hand and she says why, and then he says a story about how he could have just killed the woman.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like threatening. That was the subtext I got there.
Absolutely. There are a
Yeah,
couple. Who's that? Oh, go ahead, Rose.
I mean, reading the play, it all seemed very cryptic to me, but in this filmed version, the blocking and the composition really helped sort of demonstrate like the power dynamics and what was going on in the scenes between the characters. Uh, yeah, I just thought it was super effective. And like Val said, the actors were really doing a good job playing into those power dynamics. Um, just like the way the two men were like constantly moving around while Ruth just sits there, I think kind of signaled to me their insecurity, as well as them trying to intimidate her. She just seems so calm and like intentional with everything she does. Whereas they just like ramble.
Right. And the stories have no meaning. I mean, the ones that Lenny tells. With Ruth,
Yeah.
if you remember the part where he says, I'll just take your glass, and she says, if you take my glass, I'll take you. And she's staring at the glass when she says that. And he says, how about I take your glass and you don't take me? And she turned and looked up at him, looked like right in the eyes, and said, how about if I just take you? It was very, I mean, it's the everything about this play is all about the action and about subtext rather than about the words that they're saying at that time. In fact, the words seem kind of ridiculous. Isaac, did you have, oh, Alan had his hand up.
I was just gonna like repeat some of the same stuff, like the general subtext between that whole thing was like a power dynamic of who's in control, who has more power over the other. Like with Lenny constantly bragging about, oh, I could have killed the person, I didn't. And then even with the Iron Mangle conversation where he was just getting upset at the old lady. Yeah, it's just constantly trying to show her that I could do all these things, but I choose not to. And then when it comes time to him actually trying to establish his power over her and taking the glass and the ashtray, she pushes back and puts him in the corner. And yeah, that's just like a big thing I saw all throughout with at first I mostly saw it with Max and Jesus, yeah, Max and Lenny at the start, and then Teddy and a bit with all the guys in this thing go through this
Except
like
Joey.
Yeah, except Joey. He's a hothead. Yeah, he's a boxer. I feel they seem to go through this like emasculating thing. I mean, even towards the end, Joey kind of when he doesn't get to go whole hog or what is it? He's full hog, kind of not emasculated, but he doesn't. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I think you're right. Joey's a whole different character than the others. Anybody else reactions to that? Yeah, well,
I have a little bit more. I think specifically like near the end of the scene, where Ruth establishes her own power. It's I mean, she stands up and she was wearing heels, but she was like taller physically
Mhm.
than Lenny, which is like the quintessential like, oh, how do you show someone is more powerful than another person? Make them taller than the other person.
right.
Um, and like we see with the end of the play with like sex work being her way of like establishing her point in the micro society, um, the way she talked to him was like innuendos or like full on implications like she could take him. Um, and that's where she got her power from in that situation was by like taking him off guard by being so forward.
Yep. Good. Marcos.
At first, I got a little confused at the beginning. Like I thought, I forgot the woman's name, and
Ruth.
Ruth, and who's the guy that she's married to?
Teddy.
Not Petty. Yeah.
Right.
At first, I thought like he was like the hotel assistant trying to sleep with Ruth, but then it just all connected when I saw Bilbo's character.
Ian Holm.
So yeah,
That was
Ian Holmes.
Lenny.
I got confused at the first part. I was like, okay, this guy's being really weird towards this, person trying to sleep at the hotel, and then I realized, oh wait, they're married. So that was just like my opinion, and then obviously I know the rest of the story from this topic and the conversations and discussions that's going on right now.
Right.
The only thing I would really say, which isn't not very specific or adding anything new to the conversation, I just want to kind of hammer in what you said about with especially with the Harold Pinter stuff, it's the action and the intent behind the dialogue. The first thing I've done when I read this one, and same thing last year when I read I think it was The Birthday Party, is try to find a well done production or film of it, just to kind of familiarize myself with what is going on. I like all the Harold Pinter plays I've read, but for me it's some of the hardest to just looking at the paper. It's really tough to get all the subtext. Like it's not impossible, but it helps a lot to watch you know, well-seasoned actors do their thing with it.
Yeah.
And then kind of go back to the script and keep some of that in mind. Whereas like a lot of the other stuff we've read, it's easy enough for me to just look up like director's notes or general themes and stuff like that, intentions of what they wanted to do when they wrote it. Sometimes the dialogue with the Harold Pinter stuff is just tough for me personally. So it really helps to watch it first, if possible.
Yeah, and this one's pretty popular on the internet. You can find this one easily. I even found them without commercials before, but I don't know where I left them. I don't know where my link went to on my computer. But yeah, I think go ahead.
Oh no, the only other thing I was gonna say was like the you talked about it the other day, I think. I think his most I know this is going in a different direction, but like his most straightforward one in terms of just the dialogue and just what's going on was easiest for me to understand was Betrayal, which just felt the least out there to me compared to this, or Birthday Party, which are really I mean the dialogue is just like it's just really hard to get what's going on for me. Honestly, same kind of thing I felt about American Dream. It's like it's just I don't know. It's just tough to just extract what that subtext is. It really helps to watch it for me.
Yeah, I think one of the things that most absurdists give us is a are plays that don't rely on the dialogue. They rely more on the world of the play and understanding that world or not understanding that world. And provides us with kind of you have to get used to it. And that makes it very, very thought-provoking. I think one of the go ahead and close those, Justin, would you? I think one of my great theater experiences was seeing Betrayal on stage, and I had never read it. I didn't know much about it, but I do think that these are that it's the lack of information that we have that makes it so unsettling. We don't know what they really mean, and of course, the actors' choices give us that information, but on a very ambiguous scale. So what we're really listening to when we see the play is language and intent, and the intent and language really don't generally click together. They're giving completely different messages.
To me, part of why that worked for me with this play is there's so much like intimidation going on between the characters, and so many of the lines feel ambiguous, but it kind of works in a way to make it more ominous, almost like the intimidation. It just comes off more like creepy when you're having a hard time understanding exactly what everyone is even saying.
Right. And then the job of the director is to bring that ominousness, I don't know, to life, and to get that same feeling on stage, if that's what you got from the dialogue. And what Pinter does is he insinuates really bad things and then follows through with them. They become really bad things. Who would have thought at the beginning of this play that Ruth would agree to have sex for money with strangers? But if you see her initial relationship with Teddy, she has all the power in the relationship, even though he's this highfalutin intellectual professor. Or is he? People create myths about themselves. Lenny puts himself forward as what? What do you think Lenny does for a living? I always thought he was part of organized crime, the way he talked about himself. And of course, Joey's a boxer, and this movie is before Joey comes in the scene that he ends up going upstairs with Ruth for a couple hours. They show him like coming back from a training run, and he's doing shadow boxing. Excuse me, my dog wants to come in. I apologize. Aren't you insistent? Come on, come here. And so he's very awkward with it. He's obviously not a boxer. So we're getting clues that this family is not at all what they seem. And Max is a butcher. It's like and Lenny says that the old lady was what did he say she was? Oh no, that the woman who came up to him, who was obviously also soliciting sex, was diseased. He just made it up. I think he made up those stories too myself. If you look at Ian Holmes, the way he leads up to it, it's a story made just to intimidate, but in a very weird way. What about Uncle Sam? What did you think of Uncle Sam? Yeah, Alan.
I feel like for me, Uncle Sam seemed his character seemed more genuine, a bit nicer at least compared to the others like Max and Lenny and stuff. But in his own way, he sort of uh, not necessarily bragged about himself, but he would talk about all the good things he did, like all how hardworking he is as a chauffeur. Like, I'm driving all these rich people to the Hampton, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But it was like compared to like Max being a butcher, something that might be seen as stereotypically manly, like you're cutting up meat while using all your muscles and stuff. He was a chauffeur bragging about sitting around driving people, and it was just an interesting thing, like especially the way he relates to Teddy, with Teddy being a scholar, a doctor of philosophy. The two were both sort of bragging about their own accomplishments, despite not being stereotypically masculine.
Did you see either Teddy or Sam as gay?
Eh, not at first. No, that didn't cross my mind.
Most scholars think Sam is supposed to be gay, and that his relationship was with Mac rather than Jesse in the past. And so he was also sublimated, but because he's gay, he's kind of outside of their competition. And in a way, he lives in a different world than they do. And of course, he collapses at the end of the play. And he may or may not be dead. We don't know. They sure don't call a doctor, though. And I kind of get the impression, especially in this production, that perhaps Ruth is Teddy's, I forget what they used to call it. They're married in name only, and she's there to give him validity to his normalcy or his manhood. Because a university is one of those places where people really care about those things, especially back in '63 when it was still illegal to be gay, both in England and in many ways in America. Yes, in America too, sodomy was gay. I'm sorry, sodomy was against the law. You couldn't have anal sex. But so people have questioned that, and that may be why Sam is so different from the other characters. And of course, Joey's the difference too. What makes Joey different? What did you think of him? Yeah, Alan.
One thing that I got like mainly towards the end when they're talking about when they're talking about having their own turn with Ruth, he seemed like the spoiled youngest child that always got his way. Because like even how Max starts feeling bad for him because he's like, oh, he didn't go full hog or whatever. It's just, I don't know, just with the youngest sibling sort of thing, it's like more freedom to do whatever, to just make mistakes and mess around, and you don't receive a lot of repercussion for it from the parents. So sort of really unruly, more loose, not as refined in their manners, something like that.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? He's certainly not as intelligent. He certainly is not as intelligent as the others. And there may be disability involved. He may be mentally retarded. I don't think that's think that's a term that's used anymore. Does anybody know what replaced it? I mean, clinically, not in terms of, an insult to somebody. Anyway, yeah, thank you. Yes, I think that he's portrayed as developmentally disabled and is simply being a boxer because it's all physical and he's really not up to it. And in the final scene, let me go to that. Oh, I took that off. Never mind. In the final scene, he kneels down next to her and puts his head on her lap and she just strokes his hair while Max has a fit because he believes she's not going to have sex with him because he's too old. And then he seems to have some sort of heart attack and all of a sudden recovers to yell at her some more. And I also think the dynamic with Lenny is interesting because he's trying to dominate her, but it's just her presence that they need. And it's really, we're really unsure why. But I think the one, in the one sense, I think that we've, men have said for, I guess, for centuries that women can dominate them through sex. That makes a woman stronger than men, or evens out the disparity between the sexes that has been socialized into us. And I think this still is a couple of steps backward from what we now believe, because we don't really buy that anymore. But it certainly implies here that the sexuality of a woman, any woman, is her power. And therefore, if one is female and wants to be powerful, then they need to use sex to gain that power. So I think that's the one place where this play is really, really dated. But other than how we define that power in general, I think that the play is quite true in terms of how language works and how we use it to dominate other people. Other thoughts? All right, if you have not read the play yet, and I know many of you have not, please do so by Wednesday. Because it's really hard to have a discussion when we haven't read the play. And we'll start on Wednesday again in groups or pairs, talk about the play and come back and share our feelings. But please come back prepared to hold up your end of the discussion. Okay. Make sure you get your papers in. That's important. And also log into the discussions and have some discussions about this. All right. And if you need help with your final paper, please let me know. Otherwise, anybody have something good for the cause? Wolves is opening, I understand. Or did it already?
No, it opens on sorry, I have my fan going. It opens on the 11th, so I think Saturday is the first day.
Okay, good.
If anybody's interested in art today, we are hanging up a Monet painting in the Schneider. So you'll be able to see it on Tuesday.
Ooh, a real Monet? Cool. He was the first impressionist, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. I believe so, yeah.
I think he called one of his paintings impressionism or something like that.
Yeah, the impression that his painting's the one that gave it the name. I think it's Impressionist Sunset or something.
Oh, okay.
The one that like started the name for that
Right.
little movement.
Which is really the only name now we have that it's either realistic or impressionistic. Now there's others. All right, we will see you on Wednesday. Keep
Eric, I have one more quick question.
Sure.
I know I've already asked this before. I just want to double check because I keep forgetting. I'm trying to like go off of the Moodle calendar. We're not doing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
For all intents and purposes, the way we've set it up with the Thanksgiving week, now we get Wednesday through Sunday off. We really come back and there's not a lot of everyone gets really busy because it's the last week of the term. And I'd rather kind of go over stuff that you need to go over for your final paper, and let you focus on your final paper. Although
Okay.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead is a great play. First play I saw in college, by the way. Not that that matters.
There's a good movie for that one too. The movie's really good.
Very good movie, yeah. And Stoppard wrote the script for the movie, also the screenplay for the movie, as well as writing the play itself. And they didn't, and with this one that we just saw, this was all Pinter. I don't know if he had anything to do with the production, but he wrote the screenplay, which consisted of putting a couple of little visual things in there that aren't in the play. All right, well, take care of yourselves, get the plays read, and I will talk to you on Wednesday.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Eric.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Eric.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, I
Oh.
got one more. Oh,
Go ahead.
shoot. I was just with the final paper, we're taking a concept from absurdist theater and researching that, or is it a playwright and their work, like a Albee or Genet?
It's either one. And I found that the easiest ones for students to do, the most concrete ones, are either a production history of one of the plays, significant productions. Like they just did a remounting of Into the Woods. It's like the third significant one on Broadway. And then there are other significant ones elsewhere. So it's researching the actual production of the play and then talking about how they're different, how the productions differ. According to critics who saw it. Because of course we can never see what someone saw before, which is why in this day and age, since nobody alive, probably most people alive, have not seen Marlon Brando on stage as Stanley Kowalski, how they can compare any contemporary Stanley Kowalski to him. They can look at the movie, but that's a whole different medium. And so, so you can do that, or you can look at the playwright. You can look at the playwright's body of work and find common themes that they write about and talk about those. And that's based on critical, sometimes literary criticism as well as production criticism on multiple plays that they've written. It's good to read all the plays that you're going to talk about, but it's not necessary. It's not absolutely necessary. So anything like that just focuses on absurdism itself.
Okay.
Do you have some ideas percolating?
So far it was just two playwrights that really interested me. Was Albee, just because I really like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and American Dream, and just the way they the way he just tells the story, the dialogue, and weird intricacies with the dialogue and the character interactions. And Genet with this with the maids really what is it? I want to read more of his stuff because I really like the way he talked about self and or the way that people would analyze it. I got the physical copy before I realized there were PDFs. So I read the little forward essay by I forget who his name was, but he talked about the idea of self and masks and
think it
every
was-
layer.
I think it was Sartre who wrote the intro to that, but I'm not
That's it.
positive.
No exits, right?
Yeah, but he was more of a philosopher than he also was a existentialist.
Mm.
So he had insight into Janae.
All right.
But yeah, either one of those would be fine. You just have to kind of refine what you want to look at down into
A
one
digest essay.
right, because it's not a very long one. He also wrote the blacks and I think the screens.
Genet or Sartre?
Janae. No, I mean, No Exit is it's not really an absurdist piece. I mean, they talk about where they are, and he does create a new world. And then they discover how why those three were put in this one room in hell to be together.
I've heard I saw what is it? That's also one of the plays what Sean Oskay is using for the final and set design. He got rid of the Tempest and he's letting people pick 3 plays. It's No Exits, Endgame, and the 12-pound look. But I've been seeing a lot of stuff with No Exits. Like it's the hell is other people. Is that what it is?
Right. And it ends up that there's a woman that both men are in love. Oh, all 3 characters, including the other woman, are in love with, I can't remember the names, with the kind of vampet kind of female stereotype woman. And one of the men is in love with her and she doesn't like him, and the other man is in love with the lesbian, and of course he has no chance. So it's this circle of desire and rejection that they're going to spend all eternity being, if that makes sense. But Endgame is a great play too.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite Beckett play.
I'm glad he put all the plays as like PDFs, so I just downloaded all 3 of them and I just got them on hold to read through.
Good.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to do for this class, and I think I got all of them.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Well, most of them are it's not legal, but
yeah,
it's kind of what the university is pushing to. But yeah, and let me know when you come up with something, and I can help you tease it if you like, to get something that's right, that gives you a thesis that you can actually write on. If it's too general, you just can't write on it because there's no evidence for what you're saying.
Alrighty.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I know it's a week late. Yeah, 2 weeks late now. The visit paper, is it still possible to get that done?
Email it to me, and and you can at least get some points for it.
Alrighty. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sure. All right. Take care, Alan. I'll see you on Wednesday.
You too. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.